All right, welcome in everyone. Kicking off another deep dive here, jumping right in. And today we're looking at something that I think a lot of people have probably seen buzzing around online.
Yeah,
It's everywhere. It's one of those things. It's like, how did this come out of nowhere?
right.
It's the amazing digital circus.
The amazing digital circus.
And we are going to be looking at this.
It's a phenomenon. It really is.
Yeah, through a pretty interesting lens, I think.
I think so too.
Through the lens of Clayton Christensen's book, The Innovator's Dilemma.
A classic.
Yeah, very influential book. I mean, for those who haven't read it, it's been around for a while, but the ideas in it are really timeless and still very applicable today.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting too because this is a book that Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix,
Of course. Yeah.
has said is a book that everyone should read.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
Big fan,
Yeah, I think that's,
as he should be.
yeah.
Very smart guy. Yeah, I think it adds a really interesting layer here.
Yeah.
And I guess the mission today is to kind of try to understand how the amazing digital circus is actually a really good example of the ideas that Christensen lays out in The Innovator's Dilemma
Right.
about disruptive innovation.
It's a perfect case study, almost like it was ripped from the pages.
Right. And what does this tell us?
It's uncanny.
Yeah, what does this tell us about where digital content is headed
Exactly.
in 2025?
Yeah.
And we have some material here that kind of draws a line between
That's right.
the amazing digital circus and some excerpts from The Innovator's Dilemma.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
for people who haven't read The Innovator's Dilemma, what is like the core argument?
All right. So the elevator pitch for the Innovator's Dilemma
Yeah.
is essentially that new, often simpler or even seemingly inferior offerings
Okay.
from smaller players, upstarts, can ultimately disrupt and overtake established industry giants. And they do this by targeting segments of the market that incumbents,
Okay.
the big players, overlook and undervalue.
Okay, so it's not always about having the best product right out of the gate.
No.
It's about solving a problem that
It's about being,
more attuned to.
yeah, that the big players aren't even seeing.
Absolutely. And Christensen uses a really great case study in the book,
Yeah.
The History of the Disk Drive Industry,
Okay.
to illustrate this concept. And he shows how these established disk drive manufacturers who were focused on, performance and meeting the demands of their most, sophisticated customers
Right.
were constantly blindsided by these newcomers
Okay.
who introduced these smaller, less powerful, but cheaper and more accessible drives that opened up entirely new markets and applications.
So they're so busy making the top tier product even better for their existing high-end customers that they miss this
Yeah.
whole new
Full other.
market that's emerging.
And the dilemma, that's the dilemma.
Right. Is that it makes perfect sense for those leading companies to do that, to listen to their most, demanding customers and cater to them.
Right.
But by doing so, it creates this opening for disruptors
Right.
to kind of sneak in the back door
Yeah.
and establish a foothold.
Yeah.
And then eventually they start moving up market.
Right.
And then all of a sudden,
And then they become a problem.
they become a huge problem
Yeah.
for those established players.
Yeah. Okay. So the book also provides some guidance then on how to navigate this change.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think I vaguely remember this phrase, managing disruptive technological change.
Absolutely. One of the key takeaways.
Yeah. What are some of the things that he says?
Well, one of the key takeaways there is the need for companies
Okay.
to actively identify and nurture these, what might seem like insignificant markets, these emerging technologies,
Okay.
even though they might not be
Right.
immediately profitable or as
Yeah.
high profile as their core business.
Yeah. And this is actually something that we see with Netflix, right? They were a DVD company.
Exactly.
And they were
very successful.
They disrupted themselves.
And then they completely disrupt.
They were the ones who saw the writing on the wall and said DVDs are going to be, a thing of the past. We need to move to streaming.
Right.
Even though at the time,
Even when it was small.
it was a tiny fraction of their business.
Right.
But they had the foresight to see that.
Okay, so that gives us a good kind of foundation.
Yeah.
So how does the amazing digital circus fit into all of this? Like how is it an example of this disruptive innovation?
Okay, well the first thing that jumps out, right, is the platform
Okay.
YouTube. They launched on YouTube.
Right.
And by doing that, they essentially bypassed all the traditional gatekeepers of the animation industry.
Okay.
The TV networks, the studios, the big production houses.
They went directly to the audience.
So they cut out the middleman completely.
They cut out the middleman. They didn't have to go through the traditional, green light process. They didn't need to secure a ton of upfront investment.
Right.
They just started creating.
And it worked.
And it worked. And the numbers are pretty astounding.
They really are. I mean, I think by May of 2024, something like 22% of 14 to 24-year-olds in the U.S. were fans of this show.
That's incredible.
That's a lot.
And that's just the beginning.
Right.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. What's really fascinating is the sheer volume of fan-created content.
Yeah, that's what blew me away.
We're talking about an estimated 25 billion views.
It's insane.
Across all these
25 billion views of stuff that fans made.
That's a testament to how much it resonated with people.
Yeah, it's crazy. So this is a good example of what we're calling the creator economy, right?
Yeah.
It's this trend of these creator-driven franchises.
Exactly. And this reflects a fundamental shift in how entertainment is being created and consumed.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more individuals, small teams, leveraging platforms like YouTube to build their own audiences, build their own intellectual property.
Right.
And it's a democratization of content creation.
Yeah.
It's putting the power in the hands of the creators.
Right. And so it's interesting then to see how the established players are responding to this.
Right.
Because Netflix, a company that...
A disruptor.
That famously disrupted Blockbuster,
tax late.
ended up acquiring the amazing digital circus in 2024.
And this is so interesting because you have to think, Reed Hastings is, a student of the Innovator's Dilemma.
Right.
He recommends this book to everyone.
Right.
So he understands these principles. So it makes sense that they would see this and say, okay, this is the future. We need to be a part of this.
We need to get in on this.
We need to acquire this property.
Yeah. So it's like this kind of a pattern, right? It's like you have these legacy.
It's a recurring theme. It's like it's almost like history is rhyming.
Right.
It's playing out in a similar way.
Right. So this and we see this with other properties too, right? Like Roblox, Dress to Impress. That was another
exactly huge hit. Also driven by fan content.
Yeah, 4 billion views.
4 billion views.
It's just
insane how much these.
And what's so compelling about this is the power of community.
Right.
And user-generated content.
Yeah.
It's a completely different model than the traditional top-down approach.
Yeah.
Where, a studio creates something and then pushes it out to the masses. Right.
It's coming from the bottom up.
It's bottom up. It's organic.
Yeah. But there is a kind of a cautionary tale here too, right? That Christensen talks about.
Yeah. There are potential downsides.
Yeah. What are some of those?
Well, the book talks about the risk of saturation.
Okay.
Right? In a world where, there's so much content.
Yeah. Especially now.
I mean,
short form.
YouTube Shorts. I mean,
100 billion daily views.
100 billion daily views? It's insane.
Yeah. So like how do you
stand out? How do you break through the noise?
Right.
And there's a risk that the quality could become diluted.
Right.
If everyone's just creating content just to create content.
So that gets those views.
Right. It can become a race to the bottom.
And it also is it's just overwhelming for viewers, right? Absolutely. It's overwhelming for everyone. Yeah. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to Reed Hastings.
Okay.
I think it's just fascinating.
Fascinating guy.
Yeah.
Visionary. I mean,
him recommending the Innovator's Dilemma.
He gets it.
Yeah.
He understands these dynamics.
He sees how these things are playing out.
He's not just a businessman.
Right.
He's a thinker.
Oh.
He's a strategist.
He understands these.
He sees the big picture.
Yeah, these bigger forces at play.
And the fact that he steered Netflix away from DVDs and towards streaming. That's a perfect example of recognizing a disruptive technology and embracing it. Yeah. And then you see them acquiring the amazing digital circus.
Right.
It's almost like he's saying, okay, this is the next wave and we need to be a part of it.
Yeah. So this is all happening within this broader context of the creator economy really exploding in
Right.
2025.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
YouTube has just become this huge platform.
A behemoth.
Yeah.
It's incredible the power that they have.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's not just about the views and the acquisitions.
Right.
It's also about the cultural impact.
Right.
And the cultural impact is huge.
The source material mentions that, there were all these memes, there was fan art, there was
Everywhere.
yeah, like it was
People are obsessed with it.
it was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, and that's a sign
Yeah.
that something is really resonating with people when you see that kind of organic fan engagement.
Right.
It's a powerful indicator.
That people are really connecting with it on a deeper level.
Yeah.
So we're in early 2025 now.
Okay. The Amazing Digital Circus has really solidified itself as this YouTube juggernaut.
It really has.
What are some of the characteristics of this show that have led to its success and made it so disruptive?
Well, I think one of the key characteristics is the blend of dark comedy and kind of this unsettling 3D visual style. It's very distinctive.
It's creepy.
It's a little creepy. It's weird. It's not your typical
That's not.
Saturday morning cartoon.
Right.
And I think that's part of the appeal.
It's different.
It's different. It's edgy. It's not afraid to push the boundaries. And it seems to appeal to a wide range of people. You have kids watching it. You have adults watching it. It's really crossed over.
Right. And this is something that I don't think traditional players would have even thought to make.
Yeah, it would have been too risky for a traditional studio to greenlight something like this.
Right.
It would have been
because it's so different.
It's too different.
Yeah.
It's too outside the box.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think is really important here is the power of these online fandoms, right? Like,
oh, absolutely. And we've talked about this in previous deep dives.
Right? Like I think in episode 23 where we were talking about
the cognitive challenges.
About cognitive challenges and
the need to connect with like-minded people. Online. And episode 20 where we were talking about tech trends and the formation of these online subcultures. It's a real phenomenon.
Yeah. And the Amazing Digital Circus really tapped into that.
They nailed it.
They really
did.
They understood. And I think that's something that other creators can learn from in 2025, right?
It's a playbook.
Yeah.
It's a masterclass.
Yeah, it's like a case study
in how to do it right. How to build a community, how to cultivate a fan base.
Yeah, and this is all happening within the context of this this huge rise of creator-driven content.
It's the future.
Right. I mean, we're seeing it everywhere.
It's happening everywhere.
It's not just animation. It's
podcasts,
video, podcasts,
short form video.
It's
everything.
It's like the entire landscape is being transformed.
And digital content is being transformed by this creator movement.
Right, and we talked about this in one of our earlier episodes too, right?
Yeah.
The one about
I think it was Web ID 18 where we were talking
about podcasts and
yeah, and the different ways that
creators
are using them.
Yeah, using them to reach audiences.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. So as we wrap this up, what are the core insights?
That
we should take away from that.
The key takeaways here, I think, are that the Amazing Digital Circus is a perfect example of disruptive innovation.
Nice.
They leveraged a new platform, YouTube.
Yeah.
They engaged directly with online communities.
Right.
They bypassed the traditional gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And they built a massive following. And all of this is in line with what Christensen laid out in his book.
Right.
Decades ago.
And it's still relevant.
It's still relevant today.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these principles...
It's timeless.
Timeless. Yeah. They apply across different industries, different eras.
It doesn't matter if it's DVDs or...
streaming or...
It's the same principles.
Right.
At play.
Yeah. So as you're listening to this, I think a good question to ask yourself is, where else are we seeing this happening?
Right.
Yeah, we've talked about entertainment,
but what about
education,
healthcare, finance?
I mean, are we seeing similar disruptions in these industries? Are there upstarts who are coming in and challenging the status quo?
Right.
It's something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it.
I agree.
So,
Food for thought.
yeah, that is all the time we have for today.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you for listening.
See ya next time.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive.
Take care.
All right, see ya.